What paranormal experiences have you actually had that you cannot explain? When I was very young, we lived in a house that had the usual ghost activities, such as hearing footsteps, hushed voices in rooms, etc. But the really cool thing was the basement door. It would open on its own, and I'm not talking open an inch or two when you closed another door nearby. I mean, it would fully swing open like someone was walking through it. My parents tried locking the door and it would still swing open on its own. By the time I was learning to walk, my dad was concerned I would fall down the steps, so we went down into the basement and just said, to no one in particular, that he had a young daughter upstairs, so could they please be careful with the door. And ever since, the basement door would open and then slowly shut on its own. I'm glad your family was cool with that, but I feel like after I found out there was a ghost that was listening to me when I was in the basement, the next thing I would be doing was moving anywhere else. Literally, man, I don't care if it's the next house, the next state, I just gotta get out of that house in particular. I'm glad it was down to keep you safe though. Anyways, guys, what's going on? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I figured I would make a video reading a Ask Reddit thread about the weirdest paranormal experiences people have had. You guys say you really like the scary ones that I do, like the scary threads, so why not do another one? And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. When I was younger and dumber, I was on a road trip the summer after my freshman year in college. I had been driving for maybe 5 or 6 hours straight without wearing my seatbelt, and then I had a sudden urge to buckle it up. Less than 2 minutes later, a driver crossed the center line, clipped my car, causing a massive accident. My car rolled over and I walked away with bruises and scratches, and I'm certain that if I hadn't followed that urge, I wouldn't be here today. I still can't explain why or how that happened. I mean, it's simple, just always buckle your seatbelt. I feel like it's something so small that could save your life. I don't know why you wouldn't do it. But on top of it, bro, yeah, that was definitely your one chance to save yourself, man. Your guardian angel sent out the warning, ayo, man, someone's about to drive across the center line, so either buckle up or you're gonna meet me a lot sooner than you want to. I was in basic training at Fort Knox, and we were on a very long road march when out of nowhere, this beautiful yellow lab with no collar that looked exactly like my dog at home comes up to me and walks beside me, of all people, for a few minutes before running back into the woods. This was a big boost to me because you needed to finish the march as one of the requirements to graduate, and I was dragging along due to stress fractures in my feet. I was able to finish and we earned some phone time to call home where my mom informed me that they had to put my dog down. She was sick before I left and they were hoping she could hold on another week, but she just got too bad. When that dog came up to me, it was literally out of nowhere. There wasn't any houses around for miles, and one of the things her and I loved to do was go on runs together, so I like to think that was her coming up to me to say goodbye. Alright, who's cutting onions up in the club? I'm not crying, okay? My eyes are just sweating. Seriously though, man, I love the idea of your dog just, using that Doctor Strange multiverse teleportation to be able to come do one last run with you. I hope that's the case, man. Honestly, who knows? If not, then why was there a dog just in the middle of nowhere and miles away from any house? Someone come get your dog, alright? It's on Fort Knox and it's not finding any gold. Nothing too crazy, but I was camping in the desert in Utah. I was a wilderness guide and lived out of my truck, so camped nearly every night, so was totally used to weird noises, twigs cracking, whatever. But one night it was extremely calm and quiet and just a weird vibe in the air. A couple friends and I were on Bureau of Land Management land in Utah near Moab, and we had just put out a fire and laid our bags out. Just as I was starting to fade out, something grabbed me by my wrist and jerked my arm straight up into the air. I sat up immediately and two of my friends bolted up at the same time, and we all had it happen to us. We couldn't explain it. Nothing else happened, but it still makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up when I think about it. And you guys just went back to bed? Like, oh hey, we're out in the middle of the desert and something just jerked all of our arms right up into the air right before we go to bed. We might as well just continue to sleep here. My goodness, I guess horror movies weren't that far off when they were like, no, you don't understand. People won't run away from the big scary monster even after it kills one of their friends. You were just asking to get possessed out here, dude. No thank you. The deserts of Utah are like #1 for UFO sightings. I'm not trying to wake up on planet Flabnar. When I was about 12 and started getting left alone at home, something used to shush me. I'd be pouring cereal, singing along to the TV, and suddenly, shh. First time it happened, I absolutely crapped myself and didn't say a word until someone came home. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't think anyone would believe me, and I even started to convince myself it was just my imagination, but then it would happen again. I think it happened 5 or 6 times. One Saturday morning, I was in my top bunk, and the beds were super noisy at the slightest of moves and would result in creaking. Shh. I thought it was my younger sister and decided to annoy her further, so I started rocking about in my bunk, making as much noise as I possibly could, and suddenly, shh, but way louder. I chuckled, still thinking it was my sister, and then she whispered from below, "Was that you? The shushing, was that you?" I popped my head down and said, "No, it was you," and she looked terrified. Her eyes welled up with tears and said, "No, it wasn't." She ran out of the room crying and wouldn't come back in for a long time. I realized it must have been the shushy ghost and then was overcome with relief that I wasn't crazy because someone else had actually heard it. I haven't heard it since, and I'm always kind of waiting. Man, you must be 50 shades of annoying if even people in, the afterlife are coming back to tell you to be quiet. I feel like ghosts, for the most part, try to stay on the low key, not make too much noise, but you have to have been, as loud as a vacuum every day, 24 hours a day, for it to start shushing you. I especially love how you thought it was your sister. You're just pissing it off even further, accidentally making sure that all the ghosts in the room are as mad at you as humanly possible. I just started working in a lab in August, and since I started, my coworkers have told me about all sorts of paranormal activity that has happened in the lab. I listened to their stories, but never put much stock into them. One day, about 3 months into the job, I was late setting up a specimen and ended up staying behind while everyone else left. The hood I was using is in a corner, and I couldn't really see anything except what was right in front of me without turning my chair. Out of nowhere, I heard and felt footsteps rushing towards me. The lab is on the 3rd floor of a 4-story building, and the rest of the building is unoccupied. And then a gust blew past me. I turned to look, and there was nothing and nobody there. My dad worked in a lab when he was younger and told me there would just be random body parts all over the place, if you get a leg amputated, sometimes they have to send it to one of these labs to be analyzed. So, if there is any place there would definitely be ghosts, I'm sure it's the place that just has random body parts all over the place all the time. I'm just saying, I'm not 1000% on the whole ghost thing, but if they do exist, they're definitely in these labs where dead people body parts are all the time. 2 years ago, I woke up at around 1 a.m. thinking I can never go home again, and it was the most intense sense of homesickness I've ever experienced, full of panic and regret, and I tried to calm myself down logically that of course I would go home again. My parents lived just a couple hours away, still in my childhood home, and I'd fought hard to get away from the suburb I grew up in, so why this sudden intense longing? The next day, I got a call that my dad had been hospitalized during the night and was in the ICU. He didn't make it out, and while the house is still there, it's not home anymore. I'm really sorry for your loss, dude, but that's insane that, the night all of this goes down, you had the only time you've ever been homesick happen with crazy intensity. I'm telling you, man, I don't know what it is, but something definitely goes on and makes humans a little bit aware of what's going on elsewhere sometimes. Only in very specific situations, but how do you explain something like this? There just really is none. When I was in high school, the days before cell phones were common. My friends would come over to pick me up from my house one night, and we had made plans at school for them to pick me up at 7 p.m. At 6, my parents said I had to come with them to do something, and I totally forgot to call my friends and tell them. They came to my house at 7 p.m. and called the house phone, and no one answered. There was 4 of them in the car, and they all told us the exact same story. They said they were about to pull out of the driveway when they saw someone peek through the blinds from the bedroom on the top floor right. That was my room, so they assumed I was messing around. And 5 more times they saw it. They said someone would peek through the blinds, and a couple of times they even saw the person's eyes. We got home at 7:10, 7:15, and they're still in the driveway, and one of my friends came over and thought that I was messing with them. They asked me, "So who's in your room?" And I told them that no one was, so they asked, "So who's at your house right now?" I again told them no one, and their stone-cold faces then told me what they had seen repeatedly over the last 15 minutes. At first, we all thought there was a burglar in the house or something, so we called the cops. They came over and inspected the house, and there were zero signs of a break-in. Nothing was touched and nothing was stolen. Our house had an alarm on it, so there was no way someone could have come into the house without setting it off. My family, friends, and the cops all kind of stood around for a few minutes trying to make sense of the situation, and my friends swore up and down, and still do, that they couldn't have imagined what they saw. All four of them saw the same things, and it wasn't a particularly dark night, so their eyes wouldn't be playing tricks on them. To this day, none of us can make sense of the situation. I'm just surprised at how calm everyone is with the fact that, they were seeing faces in your bedroom window. To this day, we don't know what it was. You just went back to sleeping in the room all casual. I would have called Scooby-Doo and the gang to come investigate. Sure, the police didn't find anything, but did you call the people that run Ghost Hunters from the TLC Travel Channel? Not the TLC Travel Channel, just the Travel Channel, but you guys get what I'm saying. You guys are so insanely calm for people that apparently have ghosts just living in their bedroom. A few years ago, I was driving home towards Chelmsford, which is in England, in the middle of winter, probably around midnight, and my girlfriend was in the passenger seat. There's no moon, and the road is unlit and empty, and I'm enjoying the drive. I'm pretty much flat out on a long right-hander coming out of a roundabout when I notice there's a girl in the middle of the carriageway. She's tall, skinny, and dressed head to toe in black with long, billowing skirt on. She has long black hair and is facing away from me with her arms by her side. Like I said, I'm pretty much flat out, so it happens quickly, and I swerve into the opposite lane, just missing her and hitting the brakes. In my rearview mirror, she is momentarily lit up with my brake lights and is again facing away from me, but still on the same spot with no sign of movement. I'm spooked and instinctively get off the brakes and get back on the gas, and I can see her silhouette recede in the mirror. My girlfriend didn't see a thing, but is startled awake when I swerved, and I circle around the next roundabout and come back to prove I'm not crazy, but there's no sign of her. There's no path near that part of the road, and it's on a slightly raised embankment through the farmland, so no reason for anyone to be there, especially at that time of night with nowhere to hide when I came back around. I'm not religious or superstitious in the slightest, and I think it's pretty easy to explain away. It was just a drunk girl or something, but it just didn't feel right. It creeped me out enough to consider it a potential paranormal experience. I had a pretty vivid night terror about the same girl sometime later, and I woke up and she was tapping on the window. And then she was in the room but had no face. It was weird. Yeah, typical English road demon. I have heard of these ghosts multiple times in my time as a Ghostbuster. For the most part, they just say something about how, you guys shouldn't have lost the Revolutionary War over whatever. But guess what? You guys did. USA, baby. Seriously, though, that probably would have scared the crap out of me too, man. There's just really no explanation. But what are you gonna do other than just keep on driving? Put distance between yourself and the ghost, baby. That's survival instinct number one. My brother reminded me of this the other day. When we were growing up, we were best friends with a brother and sister pair who were our exact ages, so we spent all of our time with them and at their house. Their house was really big, and it even had a movie theater in the basement. My brother and I slept over often, and the four of us usually slept in the basement at the theater since it had a huge sunken couch that fit all of us. Around the time I was 9 or so, my brother was a little bit older, so he remembers better. Our friends were really excited to have us over because they had gotten a few couch cushions in the crawl room, so it would be like camping. My brother and I had no idea what they meant, but we knew every inch of their house, so we went to see the room. And in their basement, around the corner from the theater, there was a short door, so short we had to crawl through to get in. My brother and I had never seen the door before, even though we had practically grown up in the house. We questioned it, but neither of us remember the answer they gave other than they just found it. They were rich, so we assumed it was new construction, but we slept on couch cushions in the short room that night, and neither my brother or I can remember anything remarkable, and we slept in the theater again after that night. The remarkable thing happened a few years later. It was my friend's 14th or so birthday, and I was keeping her busy while her brother was hiding her presents, presumably in the crawl room. At the end of the birthday party, he brought up the crawl room and said something along the lines of, "You remember going in and out of there a few times, right?" I said yes, and he looked confused and asked me to show him where I remember the door being. We go into the basement, and lo and behold, there's no door. Not even an outline where it should have been sealed. My brother kicks the wall, and it's solid cement, so we ask our friend's parents, and they have no idea. They've never done construction down there, and there's no room other than the theater in the basement. Reddit, I was in this room in the basement. All night we sat on cushions in there and brought in a small TV with with Nintendo. We went in and out for a solid night and we all remember it. And after our friends moved, the new neighbors had us over and my brother and I went in the basement with fresh eyes of logical adults and still nothing. No door, and we realized there would have been virtually no room for us to sit comfortably because the basement only extends 4 feet past the edge of the house. The room would have been under the friend's lawn. And I know it's not outright scary, but I think it falls in the category of paranormal because it's just baffling. Ah yes, the Nintendo dimension. If you look into the bathroom mirror and say Mario 3 times while flashing the light on and off, a secret door appears in your basement that you can use as your Nintendo room. I thought everybody knew about this. It's one of those IRL life hacks. I thought 5 Minute Crafts would have covered it by now, but I guess not. Seriously though, there has to be some logical explanation. Like maybe you guys just went to a different room and thought you crawled into it. I don't know. Kids are stupid, everyone knows that. I worked in a really old movie theater for my first job. It was a small theater with 6 screens and they were all in a line so you could see from one end of the building to the other, essentially. Eventually, I got promoted to manager, so I had to start the movies. And we had a film still, so it was fairly complicated process of threading the projectors and then watching over them because they mess up easily. We always joked about ghosts and a lot of weird stuff happening around there, like things falling over, doors shutting, hearing voices, ghost stuff. Well, one day, I was there with one employee during a slow midweek day, and I walked out of the office up into the projection booth and out of habit looked both ways. The old left-right. To my right, there was a woman in a whitish dress and brown hair about 4 feet away just standing there, and I only caught a glimpse before doing a double take and she was gone. I wasn't the only person to see her. Several other employees claimed they've seen a similar woman around the theater, but I never saw her again, so I'm not sure if I just imagined seeing a person or if I did. Stupid ghosts. I worked in a movie theater, thankfully no ghosts, but truthfully, with the amount of weird cardboard cutouts we had around the place I worked at, if I ever did see something, I would have tossed it aside as just a weird cardboard cutout. Once again though, man, insanely calm for someone that feels like there's a ghost at his workplace in a white dress. I feel like every story I've heard of like a bride ghost, it doesn't end extremely well. Usually they're pretty mad about something. Usually all ghosts are mad about something. That's why they're doing the whole ghost thing. A few weeks ago, I was sitting at my desk in my university room, and we think our flat's haunted because weird stuff happens every so often. Things disappear, there's noises when nobody's in, stuff like that. And suddenly I get a sharp pain in my leg, as if I'd been stabbed. I look down and there's nothing there and absolutely nothing that could have caused it. So I carry on with my work, but next time I look down, there's a trail of blood going from just above my ankle trickling down my foot. I cleaned off the blood and bandaged it up, and it's healing now, but I still have no idea how I got it. It literally sprung from nowhere. Yeah, dude, I think your flat might be haunted just a little bit. I feel like things definitely get taken to the next level when the ghosts go from making noises to like causing injuries though. You might want to call the Ghostbusters. Thankfully, they made an entire song about who you should call. You think you would have learned that by now, but hey, I'll cut you some slack. You've been dealing with the ghosts. Honestly, though, I'm not staying in the dorm once a ghost stabs me in the leg. No, thank you. I feel like at that point, it's more than acceptable to go to the school and ask for a room change. They might just think you're crazy. My first apartment after college was the upper half of an old house. My new roommate had just recently graduated, so he was in no rush to move in. I'd been living with my parents for the past year or so and needed an out as soon as possible, so I bought a sleeping bag over with my last load of stuff on day one. I had no utilities. I was just camping out by myself in the living room. At some point during the night, I had a vivid dream that a killer with a knife was coming down the main hall towards the door to the living room. Just as he was about to open the door, though, I woke up terrified, shook it off, and went back to sleep. I was talking to my roommate one morning a few months later, and he told me about a weird dream he had the night previous. Seems he'd fallen asleep in the living room for the first time and had a dream that a killer with a knife was coming down the hallway towards the living room. Just as the killer was about to open the door, my friend woke up, and he spent the rest of the night in his own room, and I told him about my dream from the first night, and we both thought it was weird. A couple of months later, a friend needed a place to crash and asked to stay on the couch for a night. The next morning, he mentions he had an odd dream, and I said, a killer with a knife coming down the main hall towards the living room, and then just as soon as he's about to open the door, you wake up, added my roommate, and the look of pure terror on our friend's face was astounding. So someone got murdered in your apartment, or like something's going on. What in the Chucky is happening? happening? Like, the ghost of a serial killer is just haunting your apartment? I feel like you should have definitely known it was a little bit weird when you and your roommate had the exact same dream in the living room. But now that it's happened 3 times, you're legally allowed to break the lease. I'm not sure about that. You might want to consult your lawyer, but you should be able to. It should be called the dream catcher clause. That just sounds catchy. I was working a night shift at a call center, and it was a slow night, so I was watching Netflix or YouTube or something. We have a camera that looks at the back door, and I saw someone walking down the hall towards where I was working. I didn't recognize him, but not wanting to get in crap, I quickly closed Netflix and YouTube, and a couple minutes went by and I didn't see anyone. But I did notice a door had shut that usually stays open, and I go and opened it back up. I didn't see anyone in the office, so I did an entire check of the building and no one was around. I got back to work at data entry and waited for my shift to end and for other people to come in, thinking someone might pop up behind me any second. The next shift comes in and I tell my manager, and they give me a look like I'm crazy and I leave. The next night I get to work and they tell me they checked over the recording, and at the moment I saw someone walk in the video, it froze on a single frame for about 30 minutes. The video starts up again just as soon as the door closes, and shortly after I open it up again. I should add it's one of those magnetic fire doors that would close if the power went out. Anyways, I was freaked out for the entire night shift next. The ghost was just annoyed that you guys had put him on hold for so long before. You know, it was a call center, so maybe he was just irritated with the customer service he had received earlier. You never know. He had to have had some unfinished business, and he did freak you out and bug everyone at the call center and make them check the security system. So all in all, I would say he was pretty successful at the whole revenge thing, especially if it made you less effective at data entry the next night. You guys want to waste my time? I will waste yours! When I was much younger, I was sitting with my cousin in our grandparents' kitchen talking when I saw a white cat from the basement come into the bathroom. My cousin, who'd been spinning around in her swivel chair, turned back to face me, absolutely shocked. Did you see that? The cat. Yeah. We got up and checked the bathroom, and there was nothing there. The basement door had been closed and latched the entire time, and I always try to think of an explanation, but I can't. That's just because Grandma was putting shrooms in the cupcake. You guys were just hallucinating at the same time. Seriously though, it could have been like Professor McGonagall or something. There is no logical explanation for why a cat was in the basement outside of your grandma being a crazy cat lady who was ashamed and tried to hide it when you come over, but I don't know, I'm not really thinking that's a very logical explanation either. Overall, I would avoid the demon cat next time, don't go looking for it. But yeah, on that note guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I'd appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. If you really want to be awesome, there is a playlist full of all the Reddit videos down below, and on the channel I do have a playlist of just the Ask Reddit threads. If you like the scary ones, check out that playlist if you need something to watch. But as I said, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I would very much appreciate it. And on that note, I will see each and every single one of you guys next time. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. I'm out. Peace.